All right, folks, welcome back to our animating or creating an animatronic horror bear um, series. We're getting close to the end of the actual bear series. I have not finished my walk cycle editing it yet, but I'm going to show y'all the next part as we go anyway, so that y'all can keep moving forward. So let's go ahead and go to Workspace, General, Workspace, Reset Current. Then I'm going to go ahead and do File, Set Project. I'm going to look for my Fred project, hit Set. Then I'm going to go ahead and do File, Open Scene. We're looking for Fred 23. And then I'm going to do a file, Save Scene As, and we're going to call it Fred 24. All right, so what we are going to do in this video is get this guy set up for rendering purposes, and that means we need to have lights and a camera. Now we could render out of any one of these views, um, and I'll kind of show you that real quick. But if you want to actually do a lot of like film setup, to control where things are going to be rendered from, the views you're going to render from, and be able to keep those as like locked in views, you need cameras. If you want to control the lighting a lot more, you need to be able to set up lighting. So first off, I'm going to go up here to the top left and do the drop down to get to rendering. And we'll look at a couple of things real quick. Then I'm going to go to render settings. And in here, it defaults, excuse me, to rendering using the Arnold render. That requires you to create lights. Now, I could choose one of these other ones, and I'm going to go down here real quick. And I just want to set this image size, and we're just going to go full 1280. That's good for us for right now. And we're going to leave the renderable camera to perspective for now. But with those settings, if I choose any one of these windows and I go to render current frame, it'll pop up this window and it'll show me what I've got there. Now I'm going to close that real quick, and I'm actually going to go up here to our poly modeling. I'm going to drop in a plane. I'm going to scale that up. Then I'm going to go ahead and do render current frame. You'll see that it lights it itself. Um, So that is an option. It just does not give you near as much control with everything. But if you're needing just a quick render, um, you can always do your render settings, choose that Maya Hardware 2, and just do it that way. We are going to try to work with the Arnold renderer. It's a little tougher. You do have to do a lot more settings with it, but we can make it work. So I'm going to change this to Arnold renderer, hit close. Then I'm going to click on here, this window, and I'm going to go to Arnold Render. And you will see that it just shows up black. That is because Arnold needs lighting. Just like if you were to work in live action film, if you don't put lights on the subject, you're not going to see him, especially if you're in a dark setting. And so Arnold is set up to try to use that type of setup. And we'll play around with a 3-point lighting system. So before that though, I want to go ahead and put a camera so I can choose a view that I want. So I'm going to go to create, and then I'm going to go to cameras, and I'm just going to choose camera. Now it puts in the center. I can't quite see what the camera sees yet, so I can move it just with the move tool. I can put it wherever I want. I can rotate it if I want, just like any other tool. But what I'm going to do is, right now I don't really need the top view. So I'm going to go to my top view. I'm going to go to Panels, Perspective, Camera. Now I can see what the camera sees. Now I don't like that I can see through everything, so I'm going to go to shading, turn off that X-ray, and I'm going to go ahead and move this camera until I get the view that I want. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it even further back. And you'll have to play around with this to make sure you get the shot you want. So for right now, I'm just going to do a wide shot. Now, obviously, when he walks towards the camera, he starts to cut off. So you may have to take that into account unless that's the view you want. But for right now, that's what I'm going to do just so I can show you how to use it. Then, one issue you will run into with the camera, if I have it selected and I accidentally, if I'm over this camera view, I accidentally scroll my mouse wheel, it zooms it and moves the camera. So you can accidentally mess up your camera. So what you can do is if you have the panel here, you can go to View, Lock Camera, and that will keep it so that you can't accidentally mess up the camera. Just like any other object that we've created, you can technically set keyframes on it. So you can set a keyframe on frame 1 for your camera, as long as it's not locked. So let's try that. I'm going to go View, Unlock it. So if I am on frame 1, I set a keyframe here, or maybe let's actually move it closer real fast. I'm going to move it up closer and maybe even right there. So I'm going to hit S to set a keyframe. I'll go to say frame 30. Maybe I want it to kind of zoom out as he's walking. So I'll go to 30 and I'll do that. Now, if I hover over this window, the camera is animated. So you can do that too. You can animate that. You can animate lights. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff. But now that we've got a camera, we're going to go ahead and bring in our first light. So since we're set up for the Arnold renderer, we're going to go to Arnold, Lights, and I'm going to start with an area light. And so with the area light, you want to look at the direction of this little line here. That is going to determine which way the light is facing. And so in this case, I'm putting it towards my subject. Then I'm going to go ahead and rotate this a little bit, move it into place, and maybe even bring it up a little bit above him. And I'm trying to just get it to aim at him. And like I said, these are a little tougher to play with because if I go to Arnold Render right now, I am still, I mean, there might be a hint of something there. So what I have to do is with it selected, if I go to my attribute editor, if I play with intensity and exposure, which is how much light is getting let into the camera, then I can start playing around with that to see if I start seeing anything. So now I am starting to see stuff develop. I'm going to try to shrink down this window some so it can fit all on my screen here. So now if I leave that window open and I go mess with this, you'll see that it starts to try to update. So I'm updating my exposure. Now, because I have the perspective view selected, that's why it's testing it that way. So I'm going to go to actually this one. And I'm going to, oh, let me just change it here. I'll do camera shape. And so that's kind of what we're starting to see based off of that one light. Now, when working with a lot of lighting, one of the settings or setups you can use is a 3-point lighting system. So you'll have your key light, which emits the most, your fill light, which helps lower the shadows that your key light is producing, and then you'll have your backlight, which helps to make the subject kind of not blend in with the background. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it key light. Then with it selected, I'm going to close this Arnold renderer right now. I'm going to hit Control D and I'm going to call it fill light. Now with the lights, key light is usually your most powerful light in a three-point system. The fill light is usually facing from the opposite direction of your key light, and it's not quite as strong. So in this case, we would want to lower the intensity of it and probably the exposure. Let's go ahead and click here, go to Arnold Render and see what it looks like. So we still got to mess around with the lighting a little bit for it. And now I'm noticing too, because I'm starting to put lights, I may want to go back and rethink if I want to have our character, because right now they are set up as blends. I may want to go and turn them into Lamberts if I don't like how bright that glare is on them. So that's something you'll play around with. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to, let's just mess with this. And if I go to channel box editor, for the key light, you can actually up the intensity there. And if you want, if I'm not mistaken, you can actually enter even higher numbers in that channel box editor than you can in the actual attribute editor. Oh, so there's my exposure at 8. You'll notice this is why you need the fill light. Because if you get these intense lights, the shadow gets so intense on the other side that you want to increase that on your fill light to help lower the intensity of those shadows. Because we want there to be shadows. We just don't want it to all of a sudden look like the character split in half on its color. So now we've got some light starting to appear. The character's starting to show up. So I'm going to close that again. I'm going to do one more light. And in this one, I'm just going to go to Arnold Light area. And I'm going to bring it into the back. And you can do this a couple ways. You can try to just have it kind of come up from the back, or you can have it actually behind the character. And I'm going to go ahead and up the intensity to like 5, maybe the exposure to 5, and let's go check out how that looks. Oh, let me change my view. So you can play around with that light to help separate him from the background. That works. Now, if for some reason, and I think I am going to go change all of my textures to Lambert's because he just looks like too much like a tin toy kind of thing with this brightness. And I'll show you real quick what it'll do. Um, so I'll grab his body. If I go to attribute editor and I look for, let's do main brown. If I change that to a Lambert, you'll see because all of him was linked to it. That's actually more of the color I think I want. So I'm going to go in and change all of his textures to be Lambert's instead. So his snout, change that to a Lambert. I got to rename him, but it's okay. But that is, I think, what I'm going to wind up doing because I do like some of the spots being shiny, maybe these silver things being blends, but the rest of them, I kind of like this look a lot better. All right, so I've got those lights. Now I'm going to show you one last light before I show you how to render. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to minimize this for now. I'm going to go to Arnold Lights Sky Dome. And what that does is it creates this big giant light that kind of emits light from everywhere. Now let's look at our renderer. And that's kind of what it does to our scene. So it puts a massive amount of light, kind of like the Maya software renderer would have done. So you do need to be careful with it. If you try to do that, you can lower the intensity of the sky dome. But you can make all of these lights work together. And so if you go look at any special features for a bunch of the big name films out there that are animated, they will use hundreds of lights in certain scenes just to create the effect they're going for. So you just have to kind of play around with the lights to get what you like. Again, I'm going to play around with my textures too because I don't like the shiny part now that I'm looking at it. I kind of like the matte finish. So if I check his bow tie, and luckily because we made most of these colors all the same color, just on the different body parts, once you edit one, it edits all of them. And so there's our little guy. So I kind of like that. I may lower the intensity of some of the lights, things like that. But for the most part, I'm kind of happy with him. All right. So we've got that. We know our lighting is the way we want. We've got our camera. Next thing we need to do is we got to render. So what I would do next is go to render. Actually, let's do a file save just in case anything happens. Then I'm going to go to render, render settings. We've already got our Arnold renderer. If we look here, it is going to save in our Fred project images folder. And right here for the file name, I'm going to call it Fred test. You would obviously call this whatever scene it is that you need. Image format, I always like going with PNGs, but again, you can play around with what format you need. I'm going to change where it says frame animation extension to name.number.extension. That way it will basically say Fred test 0001.png, Fred test 0002.png. So it'll name it based off of each frame. Then this little padding piece, if I choose that, that is going to be determining how many frames I have. So padding is if I have 100 frames, I want my padding to be at least 3. That way it can put for frame number 1, it'll put 0, 0, 1, or 3 integers in there. 0, 0, 2. Then it'll go all the way up to 1, 0, 0. If you get to the thousands on your frames, then you up it to 4, the 10,000s, 5s, etc. Come down here to frame range, give it a start time and end. So since I just moved the camera 30 frames, I'm just going to do that for now. So start frame 1, end frame 30. Change my camera or my renderable camera to the one I want, so camera 1. 1280 is what we already set up. If you want to raise the resolution, you can. Just realize it's going to slow down your render time. You can go as high as you need, but for right now, since we're just going to visually see it on the computer quickly, we're going to do 72. Hit close. Then, like I've done before, I like to just check one more time my render view. Make sure my camera looks the way I like. I may even try to go a few frames in just to see what it looks like on those other frames. Make sure it looks good in all the different frames. Then I will go to render, this render sequence button, click the box, make sure this current camera is changed to camera 1. Then I will hit render sequence and close. When I do that, it'll start processing them. Sometimes it'll show you each frame it's rendering. Sometimes it'll show a few and then go to a blue screen. It just depends on the computer and how quickly it's processing and such. But once it is done, you'll have all your frames. You can watch down here on the timeline. If you don't have your view too big, you can watch it go across to know when it's done. But for the time being, I am going to end this video so that everybody can render theirs. And in our final video for this current series, there will be add-on videos to this series in the future. But for the final video of this current series, I'm going to show you how to take these renders into Adobe Premiere and make them a video file again to be able to composite it with whatever else you're trying to do. So when your render is done, make sure to do a file save. Just let it keep rendering till it's all done. And then I'll see you in the next video. All right, good luck.